Guess who's back? Dun, 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 dun. Sophie Cunningham just signed a deal, a 1 year deal with the Indiana Fever. Good for her. I'm actually really happy she's back. She was just making me nervous yesterday with these goofy videos sending mixed signals. Like, yo, what the hell is going on with Sophie Cunningham? She's going through something. But they gave her a 1 year deal, and I still think that video was about the Fever because she said, I'm going to bet on myself. So they gave her a 1 year deal, not a multi-year deal.
At first glance, the numbers do not quite add up, because nothing about a one-year return should be generating this level of attention. Yet the Indiana Fever are seeing shirt sales rise at a pace that feels almost detached from reality. Sophie Cunningham is back, and somehow that alone has shifted the entire atmosphere surrounding the franchise. So what changed so quickly, and why does it seem like this move unlocked a storyline nobody truly expected?
But it is a great thing that it is official. Ink to paper, baby. Ink to paper. Tres Leches is back in full effect. The blonde bomber, okay? The one who was willing to fight and throw the Hadoukens. Sophie Cunningham is officially back in the fold. And Kelsey Plum took a $400,000 pay cut. And that is raising many questions about Kelsey Mitchell.
No one expected a routine re-signing to turn into a full-scale economic moment. But the instant Sophie Cunningham quietly agreed to return, something unusual began unfolding around the Indiana Fever. And it was not just excitement. It was a surge, a spike, a near shopping frenzy that made it feel like a championship had already been secured before a single game was even played.
Paralyzes beyond her game skills. It looks like she brings chemistry to the team. Welcome back, Shuta. Welcome back. Great news. Tres Leches is back together again. Yeah. Well, I did this last year when I was banging the drum for Sophie to be in the three-point contest and not Lexi. I went back and looked at the stats, and there was about a 25-game period where Sophie was the best three-point shooter on the Indiana Fever. She was the one knocking down shots and had a higher shooting percentage from three-point range. So, never mind the enforcer, never mind the toughness, all this other thing. She can knock down a shot.
At first glance, it almost sounds ridiculous that a single player signing a one-year contract could send merchandise sales soaring through the roof. But this is where the story begins to twist expectations, because it is not simply about a deal, and it is certainly not only about basketball, it is about timing, chemistry, and a team that has somehow become the most compelling storyline in the entire WNBA.
We are in for a doozy, courtesy of Alexa Philippou, ESPN breaking. Sophie Cunningham. Let me move this right here. Boom. Sophie Cunningham has agreed to a one-year deal to return to the Indiana Fever, sources told ESPN. Cunningham joins guards Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hall in coming back to the Fever. Indiana has also added newcomers Monique Billings and Ty Harris so far this free agency, okay? So Tres Leches is back in full effect, baby. We back, baby. Let's go. Sophie Cunningham is officially back with the squad. This is something we all wanted and we all expect.
People believed they had a clear read on what was unfolding in Indiana, and then this move made everyone pause and reconsider. Because here is the part that few are willing to say right away. The Fever did not simply bring Cunningham back out of sentiment for her shooting ability. They brought her back because something clicked late last season that they cannot afford to lose, and that something just happens to move jerseys like concert tickets.
I don't know how much money she got, but there are players out there that have gotten a ridiculously insane amount of money. Max deals that are total head scratchers. Seriously. But here we are, first year of real money being tossed around, and this is what happened. Breaking. Alexa Philippou broke this. Sophie Cunningham has agreed to a one-year deal to return to the Indiana Fever, sources told ESPN. Cunningham joins guards Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hall.
It is easy to overlook now, but her initial run in Indiana was far from smooth, with injuries repeatedly breaking any rhythm she tried to establish, making it easy for critics to quietly label her as expendable or at best, replaceable, until that stretch arrived that turned everything upside down. From mid-July to mid-August, Cunningham was not just effective, she was outrageously efficient, knocking down over 50% from beyond the arc, which is the kind of number that makes defenses nervous, and fans suddenly remember your name every time they open a shopping app. And just like that, Indiana now holds one of the clearest identities in basketball. At the center of everything is Caitlin Clark, a very specific cast, and Cunningham has just locked in her place within it. There is something undeniably fun about the way this team comes together, and fans have started to realize that the Fever are not just talented, they are chaotic in the most watchable way imaginable.
Back. Come on, did y'all think she was going to listen? We are the #1 team for the championship right now. Did y'all think any of the players from last year was gonna go anywhere? Where better do you go? You come play for Indiana, you automatically gonna have more fans, more people care about you. You gonna be seen. You playing next to the greatest thing that ever happened to the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. Like it's unmatched. Also, this is another thing I told everybody, even when I went live yesterday, don't worry. Sophie will be back. Now, she did sign a 1 year, and I understand why. We ain't got to get into that. But I told
You've got Clark orchestrating everything with that fearless, almost reckless confidence, and then you've got Cunningham stretching the floor and knocking down threes like she is trying to make a statement on every single possession. Somewhere in the middle of all that, the game starts to feel less like structured basketball and more like controlled chaos, which is exactly the kind of product that sells. Because fans are not just buying jerseys for stats anymore, they are buying into personalities. Merchandise numbers do not lie, and the Fever's online store began moving gear at a pace that even insiders did not fully anticipate, because this was not supposed to be the signing that triggered a spike. But it did, and the reason it did points to something bigger about where this team is heading. While most of the attention focused on Cunningham's return, another conversation was quietly forming in the background, and it centered around Kelsey Mitchell.
Sports was kind of right, so fall back, haters. Anyway, Sophie Cunningham is back, and I'm happy she's back. She got that fire, and I like that she brought that spirit to the team that was missing from years before. And Sophie Cunningham is actually a decent basketball player. I don't know why people hate on her and say, oh, shit, look at her stats. No, she's actually a solid basketball player. She's what you need, what you want from the bench. She brings the energy, she's consistent, and she hit some clutch shots, especially in that Commissioner's Cup. She hit a nice three to extend the lead, and I'm like, this girl is really, really good.
Now this is where things start to get a bit uncomfortable, because while Cunningham returned on a short-term deal that gives the organization flexibility, Mitchell made a completely different choice, and fans have begun connecting dots that may or may not even belong in the same discussion. At the same time, around the league, Kelsey Plum drew attention for accepting a notable pay cut to help her team construct a stronger roster, and that instantly became the kind of storyline that sparks debate. And just like that, the conversation shifted. It stopped being just about formation and roster building. So when Plum took less and Mitchell did not, people started drawing comparisons, whether those comparisons were truly fair or not. And somehow, that only added more spotlight to the Fever, because controversy, even the mild kind, tends to amplify everything surrounding it, including jersey sales, especially jersey sales. Because now it is not just fans supporting a team, it is fans choosing sides, arguing decisions, and emotionally investing deeper into the narrative.
But Indiana finally reached a deal with Sophie Cunningham for a 1-year contract to bring the team together that was on a run last year until everybody got hurt. Now, Sophie claimed fame last year after she tackled down J.C. Sheldon in a game that saw Sheldon and Mabry knock down Caitlin Clark. And Sophie stepped in and said, you know what, I'm not taking it. And she took after J.C. Sheldon.
But the twist that makes this entire situation even more intriguing is this. The Fever are not behaving like a franchise fully committed to a long-term fixed direction just yet. The decision to offer Cunningham a 1-year deal instead of the multi-year stability she was reportedly seeking feels intentional and carefully calculated. More importantly, it signals that Indiana is still in a phase of building, still testing options, and still preserving flexibility for something larger down the road. While fans may be celebrating Cunningham's return compelling, fans are focused on chemistry and continuity, while management is thinking in terms of structure and future adaptability. Yet both viewpoints are converging into the same result, shaping Indiana's current direction in real time. And that is precisely where the franchise finds itself today. Cunningham's return, which initially looked straightforward, actually fits neatly into this evolving approach. It provides reassurance to supporters without tying the team down to long-term constraints, preserving the existing identity while still keeping the door open for change and growth.
So, Cunningham is back. We have the team that everybody wanted. Basically, the Fever brought back last year's team, minus like Howard, which I wish we had, and I'll take Ari, and added Caitlin to the mix. So I think there's going to be a lot of criticism. I think it might take take a little bit to get that crew dialed in with adding Caitlin to it, but I think we have a great shot. I think we can go far. Everyone stays healthy.
And above all, it sustains the momentum. Because once momentum disappears, bringing it back is far harder than people expect. Right now, though, the Fever are not losing ground at all. In fact, they look like they are accelerating. The jersey sales are simply the most visible reflection of that rise. What makes the situation even more interesting is that this surge is arriving before the season has even tipped off, which means expectations are already rising fast, and expectations always carry both opportunity and risk. Sometimes the smallest shift ends up exposing the biggest reality underneath. At this point, the real question is no longer why jersey sales are exploding. The real question is what happens if the winning actually continues. Because if wins are added into this already volatile combination of hype, personality, and narrative pressure, then what is unfolding now will start to look like just the opening chapter instead of the main story. And the current wave of attention around the Indiana Fever will feel like the first signs of something much larger still forming beneath the surface. The reality is that Indiana has landed in a place most organizations spend years trying to build toward, which is organic attention that feels real, unpredictable, and impossible to manufacture, because it is not being driven by marketing pushes, but by authentic curiosity from fans trying to understand whether what they are seeing is real or just an early burst that will fade with time.
All right, now, I was hoping that she could possibly go for a 2-year deal. I wonder how much money this 1-year deal is going to be. As I've been seeing, the 1-year deals are a little bit more expensive than the 2-year deals. So what is Sophie being signed for? That's my biggest question, but it is beautiful work to have her back. We know what she was doing last year with the 3-and-D, right? The spark of the team. When the team was stagnant, she come out, talk some trash, get a turnover, run it coast to coast, right? And she turned into one of the Splash Sisters. That girl was shooting the Wilson off the ball, huh?
That level of attention becomes even more powerful the moment results start to match expectations, because curiosity quickly turns into belief. And belief is what converts casual viewers into deeply invested supporters who track every development like part of an unfolding drama in real time. This combination effectively turns her entire season into an extended evaluation, where every contribution she makes is measured not only in terms of immediate impact, but also in terms of whether she fits into the long-term blueprint the organization is trying to build overall picture. That reality creates urgency in every possession she plays, because her shooting, her movement, and her ability to complement Clark are all being scrutinized as indicators of whether this partnership can evolve into something permanent rather than temporary.
Basically, the same crew coming back. I think we can do it, just adding Caitlin. So I'm stoked. Everybody's stoked. I know that they wanted Cunningham, and we got her. So, I mean, there's some super teams being created out there. Atlanta's looking rough, but yeah.
Fans may not always put this pressure into words, but they feel it. And that sense of stakes becomes one of the strongest forces driving engagement, because people are naturally attracted to situations where something meaningful is truly on the line. At the same time, the narrative grows even more complex when you factor in the ongoing conversation around Kelsey Mitchell, whose offseason choices have quietly added a contrasting storyline about priorities, valuation, and overall team-building philosophy. As long as the Fever keep performing at a high level, those discussions stay in the background and are treated as secondary to the excitement surrounding the team's progress, and fragile because they are riding momentum while also carrying the responsibility of sustaining it in an environment where expectations are rising at an increasingly fast pace. Maintaining momentum is always harder than creating it because early excitement allows space for surprise, while sustained attention demands consistency, continuous improvement, and the ability to meet higher standards on a constant basis.
Indiana on a one-year deal. That part of it is sort of interesting just because she had said on her podcast previously, I forget the exact wording, but basically the idea was that she wanted to be able to settle down somewhere and feel cozy and wanted a big contract in that sense. So, a big contract, I'm sure, applies monetarily, but also maybe, annually as far as the years that are on it. But this is not that. So perhaps Sophie sacrificing that sort of security in order to run it back with the Fever. Of course, it was group.
This degree of involvement helps explain why jersey sales rose sharply after Cunningham's re-signing, as the decision was viewed not merely as a roster change, but as validation that the storyline fans were invested in would keep developing further unfolding. The belief that the chemistry they had grown attached to would stay intact, even if only for a short time, created continuity that drove additional audience investment growth. At the same time, the temporary roster situation introduces an added layer of unpredictability that makes the narrative more compelling, as it builds a feeling that what fans are watching might not continue indefinitely at all.